So today, the state of Idaho decided to throw out the case and entire trial of Bryan Kohberger. I say that figuratively, they didn't actually throw it out, but their actions are clearly showing that they don't give a care about the victims. They don't give a care about the four victims, Ethan, Madison, Zaina, and Kaylee. They truly don't care. So let's take a look. It's been over a year, guys. We're going on a year and like 2 months since four University of Idaho students, I want to say Idaho University, no. University of Idaho students were brutally murdered there it's like mid-November, I think it was the November 13th, along in a house along King Road, okay? Now, let's take a look at this, and let's take a look from outsiders looking in. They have no murder weapon. That was a big thing. They were like, well, a knife was used. We have a sheath, but there was no knife used. They somehow find this guy the whole way out in Pennsylvania and tie him to the case. But you gotta look at this. He is a PhD student. He's a doctorate student for criminal justice, working as an intern for a police department. That's a big thing. And if this guy willingly gave DNA without a warrant for his buccal swab, why would a criminal justice student working for the police department, mind you, doctorate student, willingly give DNA in a quadruple homicide murder case? You wouldn't. You wouldn't in any way. And I think that is why that they're throwing this case out. Today, big news, they tore down the house. You heard that right. They tore down the murder scene. So what happened is the house was given by the property owner to the university. Instead of the university working with the police department and working with the district attorney's office through the court system and be like, hey, let's get this set up so that way you guys can have the jurors walk through and see what it looks like in the daytime, see what it looks like during the nighttime. That way they can actually put a visual to what is happening. They did that with the Murdaugh trials. They did that with them. They took the jurors out. They showed them through the dog kennels. They showed them through the fields, what it looked like, how this scene actually took place. Because we don't have an actual, testimony statement of what they believe truly happened. We don't have that because they don't know. You have two girls who were completely alive, conscious, and heard everything from upstairs, okay? Supposedly, Bryan Kohberger walked past them on the way out after killing four of their roommates? That doesn't make sense. And also, have you ever seen how something like this takes place? 4 people be murdered and attacked by one person? That doesn't happen. I don't care how defenseless you are. 4 versus 1? That does not happen. That does not, even if Kohberger was involved, he didn't act alone. There is absolutely no way. There's not even a Green Beret could do what happened in that King Road house. And then you got people, well, they have a sheath with DNA on it. It's not his DNA. It's a familial match. What does a familial match mean? A familial match means that his dad, his uncle, whoever, they could have donated sperm earlier in their life, and there's this long lost half brother. That happens. Have you guys seen Law & Order SVU? There is a lot of times people realize that, like, oh, hey, maybe that wasn't my real dad. Maybe I was adopted, for example. There's a lot of questions that get asked in instances and stuff like this, but they're throwing the case out. There's no murder weapon. They destroy the house that has all of the evidence that they could walk the jury through, okay? Cell phone records, let's remind you about cell phone records. I'm a network engineer by trade. I do TikTok and YouTube and journalism on the side. Network engineer, just because I have a cell phone here does not mean it's going to the nearest tower. I could be connecting to a tower up to 30 miles away. Why is that? Do you know why that is? And that is simply because of the way affiliation works on GSM and CDMA networks. You do not connect to the nearest cell tower. Most times you don't. You connect to the one that has the most available bandwidth. So just because you see one tower there, two towers there, does not mean you're connecting to those. He could easily have been across state lines and connected to that Moscow, Idaho tower. The way roaming works with that on CDMA and GSM is you go to the tower that is the least used. That way you have the most available bandwidth. A lot of people don't realize that. And you can get anyone. You can get a network engineer from T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. Those are your top three. And they'll come in and testify in court and say, we can't guarantee where his cell phone was. You would have to get GPS data. Because mind you, GPS data, that's completely separate from cell tower acquisition. It's completely separate. Now, if you were to call 911 and have the emergency services, that's completely different. Because with the way E911 works is that you do have your GPS coordinates sent over to the CAD system so the call taker can see. I was in public safety for almost a decade. I know this. A lot of people are quick to take only a bit of information and be like, he did it! He did it! It's a witch hunt, you know? That's not the case. This is not a witch hunt. So many people have painted him as guilty right off the bat. And it's absolutely insane. They still don't have a murder weapon. That's a big thing. They do not have a murder weapon. And with it being a college town and a college house, there's a lot of people in there. There's still 3 unknown male DNA samples in that house. Yeah. There is still 3 unknown male DNA samples in that house right now that they don't know who it is. So while we have Mr. Kohberger, who was flown, and I watched it personally as he was being flown from Pennsylvania to Idaho, there's still 3 unknown male actors who could have acted in this. Again, mind you, what did I tell you in the beginning of this podcast? What did I tell you in the very beginning? I don't think he acted alone. I really do not believe he acted alone in any way, shape, or form. There's more people. He's not alone. He is not alone. I don't care what anyone says. He is not alone when it comes to this. Also, possible stalkers. Kaylee could have had a possible stalker is what the evidence is showing. She could have had a possible stalker. You know? And the big thing is when you actually start taking a look, like that traffic stop that was on December 15th, granted that would have been a month or so afterwards, they didn't see any defensive wounds. And I don't know about you, but 4 people, someone's going to fight back. Someone's going to bite. Someone's going to scratch. Someone's going to claw. Someone's going to do something, bruising, whatever. One person, you know, and then mind you, 2 alive victims at the bottom of the house in the basement who probably heard it all. And he walks right past, goes, hello, and then just walks out now. Nah, that doesn't happen. That does not happen in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't. It fits no motive. It fits absolutely no motive. You know, there's a lot of stuff that just isn't adding up. And at the end of the day, he has waived his right to a speedy trial. He willingly gave DNA as a criminal justice doctorate student, and he waived his right to a speedy trial. And he also has supposedly an alibi. There's supposedly a credible alibi that's going to be presented during this trial. So, okay, so let me ask you this, guys. Let me ask you this. What happens if we get through trial? They realize there's no conviction. Let's say there's no conviction, or the district attorney realizes that we have the wrong guy. They just killed over a year, and by the time the trial was done, a year and a half since these murders have taken place. The DNA has been contaminated. There's still 3 unknown male actors. They destroyed the house, so they can't go back. The jurors, what I would be asking if I was a juror was, I would like to be in the basement, and I would like to hear screaming at that top of at the 3rd story. I want to know what it sounds like, okay? Dead of night, no cars, no traffic. I want to hear what it sounds like with someone upstairs screaming, or, some sort of hitting, some sort of something. Because I guarantee you, there's no insulation between those walls. I highly doubt that. You don't put insulation in between walls. You put it on the outside. Okay? You're going to hear something. Even on the second floor, 2 people, Ethan and them, someone's going to hear something. Someone is going to hear something. And if what we know from previous family reports is that it was a pretty gruesome scene, okay? That was a lot of slashing going on. But let's not forget, I believe it was Kaylee's dad? Kaylee, I believe it was Kaylee's dad, talking to the grand juror members. The dude, the father, decided to talk to the grand jury members, which tainted that. That is still on the brims of everyone's hats. Like, what's going to happen with that? If I was a victim's family member and I went and spoke off the vest to grand jury members saying, I want you to get a indictment out of this, that indictment's null and void. That indictment is null and void. Let's face it, Idaho, the Moscow Police Department completely screwed this up. Moscow Police Department, they screwed this up. They completely botched this. And at the end of the day, I think that we're going to see a lot happen out of this. Idaho, Moscow Police is not used to a case like this. They tried handling it themselves. They have no DNA lab. They tainted it. People walking in and out of crime scene like it was a goddamn party. That's what they did. Have you guys seen videos from that morning? The amount of people walking in and out. They tainted that scene. As soon as you got in there and you saw what happened, that's where you're like, no, we need crime scene in here before anyone else goes in. It's where you get into Tyvek suits, you get in your little booties, you walk in so that way you don't disturb anything, and then those suits in itself get preserved and swabbed for any DNA that could have been picked up. There's a lot. They didn't do none of that. They didn't do any of that. Again, supposedly an alibi. No murder weapon, cell phone records, which are being misconstrued by the public because, as I already explained, you do not connect to the nearest cell tower. They familial match. This is a doctorate student who is going for criminal justice, who willingly gave a DNA swab and waived his constitutional right to a speedy trial. Anyone in their right mind would be like, that defense is doing some things that most defenses don't. Maybe we should listen to them. But no, people are on a witch hunt. People are so quick to be like, hey, he's the guy. Nah. Don't forget, there's also more than one Elantra that was spotted in that area. They didn't have tags for them, and supposedly that there were some characters of the vehicles that highly differed. It's not adding up, guys. And with them tearing down this house, I think they threw it. I think that they truly threw this case. Leave a comment down below what you think about this. Be sure to leave a comment. Hit that subscribe button, guys. And whenever the trial does start to get underway, we'll definitely be covering it. So thank you very much. And I hope you guys have a great end of the week here. We're almost at TGIF. And have a great weekend. Again, never stop reporting, guys.